Hi guys, the time has come. That time happens in every skateboarder's time for out skateboarding. It's time to say goodbye. My skate shoes have a hole in them and it's time to throw them away and move on to some new ones. So as you can see, I have two pairs of skate trainers I've had lined up to be the next pair to skate. And that's why I've come up with this idea of comparing a cheap pair of skate trainers versus an expensive pair of skate trainers. Is the money really worth it? Let's find out when we compare these two shoes. So which two shoes is it we're going to be comparing? We've got the Etnies Marana as the more expensive shoe with the Michelin grip. These bad boys roll in about £82 if you're buying them. Now they're the more expensive shoe. As for the cheaper shoe, we've got the Decathlon. And these are just the bog standard Decathlon skate shoes that they sell, Decathlon Vulcs, and we're going to see how they hold up. And they priced in this colourway anyway at £24.99. Now I think the other colourways, some of the other colourways are about £30, but these ones were only £24.99. So there's quite a gulf in the price, but is there a gulf in their ability to perform as a skateboarding shoe? And that is what this video is going to find out. And as for today, just today, this is going to be more than a one-day video, but as for today, I'm just going to stick both of them pairs of shoes on. And my original idea was that I was going to do 50 kickflips in each of them and just give a quick whir test. Obviously I wouldn't be landing 50 kickflips, just trying 50 kickflips. If I landed 2 out of those 100 kickflips I would have been happy. But I'm not doing that because I've literally just come to the skate park and I'm not warmed up. So I'm going to change it up a little. I'm just going to stick to the 50 tricks in each shoe. But I'm going to do 25 different tricks, like 5 ollies, 5 180s, 5 of 5 different tricks. I'm going to do the same in each shoe to warm up. And then I'm going to get to doing 25 kickflips in each shoe. It's not going to be necessarily about what I land, which will make the shoe better. It's how it feels, how it looks after, and just my general opinion on the shoe. So just because I don't land a kickflip in one of the shoes but I land it in the other doesn't mean that shoe's better, because I am going to be doing like the 50 tricks in one shoe first when I'm not warmed up, and then hopefully by the time I've done them 50 tricks and I'll be warmed up, so I'm obviously, well not obviously, but I should be better just in general on the next shoe. So it's not really a fur test, especially for what I'm doing right now. But following on from that, I'm going to film myself in some other sessions using those shoes, and then I'm going to come back in like a month or so's time, take another look at the shoe, and I'll give you my opinion on what I felt over that month or so period skating those shoes as evenly as I possibly can. So that is what the video is going to be about. So let's get geared up and get those shoes on our feet and start performing some skateboard tricks. So that's the initial 50 trick test in both shoes, and as I stated earlier, I am going to do a more intensive test and skate them for like a month or two evenly throughout sessions and come back to you with a proper result of how I feel they both performed. But as an initial little mini review, I suppose, the second I switched from the cheaper ones to the dearer ones, I immediately felt more comfortable. They felt more comfortable on my feet. And I do just want to say, as you can see, I am not using the footprint insoles in any of these shoes. I wanted to test them as they were. You all know I am a big advocate of the footprint insoles, and in the future sessions I'm going to be wearing footprint insoles in these shoes. I'm not going to keep skating them as they are like this. So this is the only time I'll really get to tell a true feel for how they are. And immediately the Etnies felt a lot more comfortable than the Decathlons. And that might have shown in the tricks. I probably popped a little higher and rode away a little smoother because I had that extra bit of confidence through having comfort on my feet. So yeah, that's a win immediately to the Etnies, at least for the initial feeling of the shoe. However, when it comes to kick flips, I was struggling with the Etnies. They first, they felt really grippy. I got to grips with it at the end, no pun intended. But yeah, they felt really grippy for the kickflip, and I was struggling to even get it round on a couple of the attempts, which is strange because normally I always get my kickflip round. I just don't land it back with 2 feet. So if we just look damage wise, there's a little bit of scuff in there, but nothing major. But yeah, they were really grippy. And is that a sign of the longevity of the shoe? Because they are grippy at the start, it'll take longer for them to wear down and eventually get a hole in. Only time will tell, I guess, on that one. Whereas these, they felt like I could just kick flip in them straight away, even though the board felt a bit not as comfy under my feet. If we just look at what these are looking like, they are a bit dirtier, these shoes. I have worn both pairs of these shoes just out walking in the streets and just for general use. I've not skated in any of them, so that's why these are a little bit dirty. Don't think it's an unfair test. But as you can see, that they do look a bit more worn down. You can see the pattern of the edge there already coming away. There where that line is, it sort of just disappears as it gets round. So they already look like they've been worn down a little bit more than the Etnies. Was that why they were easier to flip? Because they're not quite as thick and long lasting. Only time is going to tell. But for now, on initial thoughts, I hate to say it because I was hoping the cheap shoes were going to be good and I could continue to buy them. It does look like a dearer shoe is quite possibly better. But stick with me, watch this montage, and we'll be back in a month's time to really find out which shoe is the better skate shoe, if any. So that is the Decathlon Vulcs and the Etnies Marana. So what are they looking like after a month and a half to 2 months of skating? Let's find out. So if we start up at a close of the flick foot, you'll see there's a bit of scuffs and a bit of discolouring on the Etnies, which was the Dara shoe, but there's nothing of real note to say about them. There's just discolouring and a bit of scuffs, so they're not looking too bad at all. Now if we move over to the Vulcs, you clearly see there's a lot more wear. Like you get there, like if I look on this side here, you can see like a clear little lip, whereas if we go to the flick shoe, it's really just starting to blend in to the suede, and you can see there like how much of an angle that has worn down at compared to how it is on the pop shoe. So yeah, there's again not any real damage at the minute, but there's significantly more wear on the Decathlon Vulcs than there is on the Etnies Marana when it comes to the actual flick shoe. So that's not off to a good start for the cheaper shoe. Now if we just look at the sole of the Etnies, there's wear like here on the heel, which I think that's just the way I am with my feet. I think I'm a bit heel heavy on that outside, but there's no real wear at the top here. They look perfectly fine, and apart from that bit of wear there where it's worn down slightly, there's not any real damage. Now if we look at the Decathlons again, you can see straight away, if you look in the centre of the hexagonals, there's no centre on these ones. You can see it comes back up there. Again, even some of them have been worn down. There you can see where they're just visible. But yeah, there's a lot more wear on the sole of this shoe than there is on the Etnies. It's again not great for the longevity of the shoe. Now that comes to which shoe is better. Performance wise, they both worked perfectly fine. However, the wear on the Decathlons is significantly more than it is on the Etnies, which leads me to believe that the Decathlons are not going to last. The Etnies are going to last at least twice as long as the Decathlons, if not even longer. And if they're to last longer, then how much more expensive they are becomes irrelevant, because you'd have to change these out 3 times if they was to last more than twice as long. So then it becomes that you're spending roughly the same amount of money. So for that reason, and that reason alone, I feel the winner and the better shoe reluctantly has to be the more expensive Etnies Marana. And I say reluctantly because it would have been nice to be able to say that the cheap shoe is just as good or even better than the more expensive shoe. I mean, I would have liked to have been able to save myself a bit of money, but it seems like there's a reason it is dearer, and I think we all knew that that was going to be the outcome. It's all down to the longevity. If you just need a shoe for the now, just a bit short on cash over the month, and you will have money to be able to get a new shoe very soon, but just not right now, and you need one right now, then the Decathlons would be very good for that, because they perform very good. And as you've seen at the beginning of the video, from the initial first like kick flips, they felt like they were worn in like straight away and ready to go, whereas the others seemed a bit more grippy. I had to wear them in slightly. When I say slightly, I only did 25 kick flips, and by the end of it they was worn in perfectly fine, even in the middle of it, so it wasn't like a long wearing process, but still, you get me drift. So yeah, they'll work as a quick short-term solution shoe if you're really short on cash flow for the month. But overall, I would just recommend you go for the more expensive shoe, bite the bullet, and they'll last you a lot longer, and in the long term perform better. And I do want to add, when it comes to the wear of these shoes as well, I actually probably, even though I said I was going to try and do it as evenly as possible, I probably did wear the Etnies more than I wore the Vulcs, so that is another thing going in its favour. And yeah, that is my cheap versus expensive shoe review. Sadly for everybody, the expensive shoe won. So go to your local skate shop and grab yourself the pair of most expensive skate shoes you can find.